is Wednesday, the 27th of February, 2013. This is our bi-weekly meeting, more or less, of Management 3025. Next week is spring break.
Moved.
And the following week is?
Midterm.
The midterm, March 13th.
And the video.
And the video is June. So we want to spend some time tonight talking about the video and a bit about the midterm. But before I get started, do you have any topics of interest? Questions, concerns, things going on?
Well, all this. Do you have a practice test in the midterm up?
I have the test bank of some 90 questions, and I'll be choosing from those questions to make up the exam.
What's the test? Is it just midterm test bank?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's under lessons?
Yep, under lessons, midterm test bank. But, yes, go ahead.
What about the other text? The other
Yes, there are some study questions for the Caproni text that are also under lessons, and those will be also part of the midterm. So the midterm will have a series of multiple choice questions. But the one thing I put in on the discussion forum today, I may tweak those a little bit. I'm not interested in you rote memorizing answers that you recognize a question, throw the answer in, no thought required. So what I may do is take some of those questions, either rearrange the answers, reword it slightly, or, and I brought a copy of the test bank here with me, and I thought, I don't want to do a lot of these, but I might do some like this. Question 1. Walmart may have supported stockholder interests at the expense of what other stakeholder group? You remember that question? Anybody looked it up?
The employees.
Employee group. What I might do is put that on the test and say, explain. What did Walmart do working for their stockholders that came at the expense of their employees? What have they done? Anybody know? That would make an interesting question.
I have to study that one.
Oh, let's see. I'm sure there are others in here that. Number 6, behavioral science research suggests that which of the following doesn't necessarily promote achievement and can actually make people hostile? Competition, competitiveness. What are they? I might put there. Explain. What would you say? What happens when you introduce competition among your employees? Hello, Teresa.
Hey.
Welcome.
They start seeing other employees as enemies rather than allies.
Good. Very well and simply put. They frequently begin to view other employees as potential, if not real, enemies. And any sense of cooperation, synergy, etc. is dissipated, reduced, and then you have hostility. Okay? What would you do if your boss were doing that and you saw the hostility beginning to grow?
Well, that if you want to keep up with competitiveness, I'm going to tell you that all of your employees are just either going to beat your crud off one another, or you're just not going to get anything done.
I guess
It can be counterproductive, that in fact people may spend more time focused on their enemies. And this is common in sales, right? Top salespeople get all these top awards, etc., and it can get very, very competitive. If you're familiar, for example, with real estate sales, anybody here familiar with real estate sales? How is that competitive? Even within the same brokerage firm, when you and I are both working for Joe Smith, the broker, what can sometimes happen?
The seller says to the owner, hey, if you just take out the real estate, you don't have to worry about commission.
Yeah, the seller says, that we can cut the commission, or the one I see frequently talking to real estate people is, you and I work for the same broker, somebody came in, you showed them the house. They sort of disappeared for a month or two. And then they called again, and no, you're not here, so I'll take the call, and then I show them I sell the house. Well, wait a minute, you showed them the first time. Did I steal your client? And, that can get really ugly. And if that continues, what happens next? I'm watching every move you make. I'm, keeping
You
an
don't
eye.
really want to leave your desk ever.
I pretty much don't want anything to happen that I don't have my hand on.
You get a
And
bad reputation too.
then the rumor mill in the office begins to grow. And rumors have no attachment to truth.
And then you lose clients too, because if they can't get you to respond, because you're worried about somebody else in the building,
Right.
they're gonna go to
Exactly.
somebody else.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, I'm out there talking with somebody from the community, and I start bad-mouthing the person I'm working with for stealing my clients. What kind of attitude is that? So, bad reflection on me and on the company, that they've got that going on. So, again, let's see if we can find another one or two here. Boom, 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 boom. Amanda was a tough manager and made it a regular practice to check up on her staff, looking for cheating on timesheets, people coming back late from lunch. Guess what? She found it. She was not at all surprised to find rule breakers with regularity. But what might she have been doing also?
She was being a type X
She'd been a McGregor X.
and a micromanager.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
She was falling into the potential trap anyway of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so I might say, what does that mean? And so you would have to add a little 2-3 sentence explanation, What is a self-fulfilling prophecy? Anybody?
One that is made and that you constantly thinking about it and making it happen.
Yeah. Something you believe is going to happen, and you tend to work in ways, even subconsciously, to help it happen. So, yes, sir.
Seems like when we talk about it and the way it's presented in the book, that self-fulfilling prophecy is presented negatively.
Yes, and that's unfortunate.
Is it not possible to have a positive self-fulfilling prophecy?
I think that's what's the word I want? Affirmations are all about. That, you get up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a great day. I'll tell you, when people ask me, how are you doing? I have a built-in response. My response is never better. I've never had a better day in my life. And you know what? It's pretty true. Every day it just gets better and better for me. And we're a little philosophical now, and it'd be a lot more fun over a beer, right? But life's going to happen. You and I get to choose how we respond to it. And if we choose positively, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe that deeply. And that doesn't mean things don't go wrong. And usually when they go wrong at the worst time and in bunches. But you just got to work through it. So yeah, a very good point. That's not a negative thing, that's self-fulfilling prophecy. All right, so you get a sense. So if there's 90 questions on here for you to study, I'm going to pick out somewhere between, 20, 30, 40 of them. Suppose I picked 40, and I picked 10 of them that I thought were kind of cool, and I said, explain that. That's your test on the textbook. Coming in.
You said there's 90?
Yeah, there's 90 90 questions in the test bank.
That was just 1 through 4.
Yeah, that's just the first 4 chapters.
That's just the first 4 chapters, isn't it on 8?
Yeah, it's on 8 chapters, you're right. I forgot
Yeah.
to print the second version. So I've forgotten the total.
It's about this.
100 how many?
170 something.
Yeah.
Is it 170? Okay, so yeah. Look them over and be sure you know what the questions are asking.
It's 186.
Don't just memorize answers. That won't do you much good.
And you also said the Caproni question
Yes, so you'll have this,
plus the...
let's say 40 questions, 10 of them, give or take, or explain it. And then Caproni, I don't remember how many study questions are on Angel, but typically there'll
About
be,
5 per chapter.
were there that many? Okay.
Something like that.
I'll pick out 2 or 3 or 4 of those. And again, if you've already answered those, this should be, I don't see this as test as being something that should really be a challenge if you've prepared for it. If you're going to make it up as you go along, okay. Say again?
So if you're gonna make it up and go along, good luck to you.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a place for fiction writers, but most of them starve to death. Good. So that's kind of where the exam goes. The exam's going to be 6 o'clock, March the 13th in this classroom. Bring some writing paper with you. Boy, I gave this midterm last term, and I just brought in some blank paper for people to write on. And all the whining and just ragging on me about, I can't write without lines.
Your paper.
So you bring your paper, okay?
And a scan card, right?
Yes. Please bring us, can we get I don't know. Sometimes it's not easy for you guys to get your hands on some Scantrons, is it?
I have a few.
They're at the bookstore.
Do you want the big ones or the?
I like the big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
What time does the book start?
What, 4:30, see, that's kind of early.
You mentioned at the beginning for somebody to buy a big old packet and stuff.
I'll try to pick up some too. But yeah, let's bring Scantrons, because if we're looking at 40 questions, that would make life a little easier. I'd rather spend my time reading your Caproni responses.
Like one of my old business teachers used to tell me, well, if you want to make a quick buck, you might as well bring extra Scantrons instead of $1 for them.
In my economics classes, I say that there is a price floor on Scantrons. Nobody can sell one for less than $1, or you fail the course. And surprisingly, there's usually 2 or 3 people that turn up with 15 or 20 of the damn things. We never have a shortage of Scantrons, you're exactly right. I think $1 a piece is a fair price if you forgot to get one.
Right.
Okay.
And it's in this.
In this room. And it will be a little bit crowded.
Oh, really? How
I'm
many
just
people
asking
do we have in the class?
A lot. 'Cause I was just asking because the other classes they did it.
We're all
in
going to be,
the
some
building.
people are going to be sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
Get here early.
5 times 6 is 30. And we got about 50 seats in here, and I think we got about 56 people in the class. A couple of 3 folks are taking the course at a distance, and they'll be testing remotely. So it'll be very crowded. Remember, again, it is closed book, not open. Okay, anything else on your mind as far as the exam?
Well, I emailed you, but I thought the whole Peter principle thing, it was just something that I was dealing with at work, and then when I watched the video, I was like, that explains it. Like,
What is the Peter principle?
so
Anybody else?
You get promoted up, so.
You get promoted up based on your performance at this job, not at the next one. And how far do you get promoted?
Until you become
Until you stop
incompetent.
Until you
performing.
hit your level of incompetence. And at that point, they shift you to the side or fire you. Now, that book came out, I believe, in the 70s. And yet we're still picking it up today, particularly if you've not seen it before and you read it and you go, I'll be damned. Guess what? It's timeless. It continues to go on. I talk with my friend John Spence frequently. And John, what are you reading new in the management books that are being published all the time on the bookshelves and etc.? It's the same stuff. There's occasionally some new good stuff, and there's some good writers out there. And he cites a lot of them. You read his website, you watch his blog, some good stuff. But 95% of it, it was new 100 years ago, 50 years ago. But people keep doing the same thing. So there's a lot to be learned from that, if you've not seen it before. Yeah, we find the Peter principle everywhere we go. What we have to be careful to do occasionally is look in the mirror and say, am I confident at doing what I'm doing? And how am I doing? What is a 360-degree evaluation system? Anybody ever heard of that? 360 evaluation.
Isn't that in the basis of a SWOT, where you're evaluating a company on all of its scales? Everybody?
Not quite the company. It's the way I would do your evaluations if you worked for me, for example. And I would say that if on the organizational chart, there's me, I'm always at the top, of course, and I got a few people working for me here and here and here and here and here and 3 down here, and I say, okay, I'm going to evaluate you. But what we're going to do is, I'm going to evaluate you, 2 of your peers are going to evaluate you, and 4 of your subordinates are going to put in evaluations on how they see you doing your job. So you get evaluated top, sideways, and bottom. What do you think of that?
I think it's
Do you? It'll hurt your feelings.
It will, but it gives you a real evaluation, because sometimes you're so into yourself. Like, I realize that sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm doing wonderful, and then I start reading something, I'm like, you know what, maybe I've not been doing as great as I thought I was, but although it may come off a little strong, it's giving you the true perception of those around you.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll get back to that.
Sometimes it-
Yes, sir.
I think it's well-rounded. What your subordinates would know about you and your work ethic or what have you, your superior might not know. So it'll be a more complete picture.
For me, your superior, it would damn sure be a much better, more complete picture. I'm not sure that it won't be subject to what?
Opinion.
Bias.
Some biases by people, some personality conflicts, and you've got to, kind of feed that into it. And, sometimes we say with those evaluations, you take the very worst evaluation of that person to the very best, throw them out, and see what you got left. And then if you did that consistently over time, if I did that for you every 6 months, and you got to see the evaluation, not the names, but you got to see, or maybe I just extract some of the comments, because the way some people write, you can tell who they are or something. But I try to keep it as anonymous as possible, but I say, here's what people are seeing about you at different levels in the organization.
I guess you could use a 360 and then do a SWOT analysis on an individual.
Oh, yeah.
Passing that.
Well, as opposed to a SWOT analysis, we have something else called MBO. Did you read about that, anybody? What is MBO?
Management by,
Objective.
Management by objectives. And that's where I would sit down with you and say, okay, let's look at the year that's coming, and let's agree together on the objectives you're going to pursue and try to accomplish over that year. And when you and I sit down at the end of the year, we'll go back and see how you did on accomplishing those. And you will help me determine what those should be. And that can be useful. The key with all of that is whoever's doing the evaluation has got to be serious about taking the time to sit down and do it with good conscience. Too often what happens with an evaluation? Evaluations are due next Monday. Come in Friday at 4 o'clock, we'll knock that out. That's meaningless. And in fact, that's a danger. If your boss isn't evaluating you, why is that a danger?
I can give a personal example. I never
Please.
received any feedback for about 6 months,
Okay.
and then I had my evaluation. They were like, you've been negative about the change, and I'm like, what? Like, every time I've said something, someone has agreed with what I've said. Maybe the way I've said it has come off strong, but now you're putting this in my end of the year evaluation like I'm this horrible person, but you've never at any point given the feedback to me.
Yeah, I call that sandbagging. Sandbagging. I'm having a real problem spelling lately. I'm not sure what it is. To sandbag somebody is to not do anything to them till the very last minute and then thunk them over the head with a bag full of sand. If you've got a boss, God forbid you're not the boss, who is reluctant to confront people when they are not performing, and you kind of pass it by and avoid it and avoid that confrontation, and then it comes time for the evaluation and you write up all that stuff that you feel it in good conscience, that's what's going on, but you never gave them any feedback. You lay that on them. Not only have you destroyed them, you destroyed your own personal credibility. And believe me, that word will get all over the place. Strickland's a gutless wonder who won't tell you what's going on until he sandbags you with your evaluation. Watch out. That's why that 360 is so wonderful, because it points out those kind of things. Yeah?
I actually had an example similar to that, not as bad as yours though. Mine was, it was just the other day, my supervisor told me I'm not supposed to do something with my job, but I just do, no one ever told me not to. He said, it's been brought up several times in the management's meeting, and this is the first time he told me about that. He gave me this whole big spiel about how I shouldn't be doing it. I said, just tell me not to do it, and I won't do it. That's all it took,
Well, it's been brought up in the meeting several times means that he didn't say it.
Exactly.
Gutless wonder.
Yeah.
Okay?
Exactly.
And, we're going to find those people out there, and we want to make sure we're not. How often should you evaluate someone? That's a little trick question.
In my work, we do it every day.
Every damn day.
My opinion is, we do a development plan, but,
You're in retail.
yeah.
Okay.
And so, to me, we have to fill out what we think we did in the year, and most of the time, mine is the same as theirs. To me, it's a good one. I already know and they've been watching it and know it too. So it's very rare that I get blindsided unless I have a manager like that. But to me, you have to do it all the time, because you cannot, on the year, say, by the way, you've done this for the last 6 months. It's a waste
There's a
of
couple of
time.
things going on there. For your own protection throughout the year, keep a diary, keep a ledger, keep memoranda for record that you make to yourself. Oh, I did this today, or I had this conversation today, and keep that. So that you can go back and cite time and day
And
on
for
when
legal
this happened, or when you said this to me, or what I did that was good, or I screwed this up, but here's how I fixed it. Okay? And if you're the guy or girl in charge, That means talking to people on a regular basis, not a formal, let's sit down and have an evaluation, but you get a couple of minutes today before you go home, stop by the office, let's chat about a couple of things. Been watching this, I kind of like the way you're doing that, I appreciate it. I'm a little bit concerned about this and the other. Okay, just keep it in mind. Now the second time I tell you that, it better damn sure get your attention, because if I have to tell you the third time, it'll be on the evaluation, but it won't be a damn surprise.
Right.
So we've got to have the courage, but we also got to have the discipline to set that schedule up that we're talking to those people on a regular basis. And if we're not getting that feedback from our boss, go ahead and get it. Go ahead and say, you'd be surprised how many times people as managers overlook that responsibility, but they're more willing to do it when they know you want to hear the feedback. Max?
Oh yeah, I was going to mention on the journal thing. My father, he has a few bosses,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever he sends out an email to anything, for any regard business-wise, he always sends a courtesy copy to all of his bosses, plus an alternate person that he trusts.
Mm-hmm.
So that, if anything were to come up, the bosses constantly have, and he flags them to make sure that he'll get an email back when they open them. And he'll have records stating that, on this date, at this such and such time, I did email this person about this subject. You all have a copy of it, and my lawyer has a copy of it, just in case you say you don't.
Okay. I'd be careful about saying my lawyer's got a copy of it, because you sound a little bit antagonistic and dangerous. But the point remains that email can be our ally and a friend in the sense of record keeping. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure.
Courtesy copies are amazing.
How many of you have done self-evaluations in the past where you have to evaluate yourself?
Every year.
And how much fun is that? I think it's cool, honestly. But I like to write,
Yeah.
But I've got to do one again in September. September. And I've already started it. And I told the boss, I said, I'll have it in on time. In fact, I just may go get the damn thing published. It's just going to be this big. Because I've been keeping records on the things I've been doing. I got all kind of statistics to cite. I got my YouTube channel with all my videos on it. I get email from students around the world every day. And we correspond back and forth. And I'm just cutting and pasting some of those saying, see, this is what I'm doing. So, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun playing that. The appendix to my evaluation will be my comments on how we need to change the way we run the college.
So does the boss go, oh, here's Professor Strickland?
Oh, this is half my psychology. They're going to look at that and go, oh my God. They're not going to read it?
That's great.
Pages 100 to 150 are blank. No.
Exactly. Okay. So, comment. Yes, sir.
I can share something. A few years back, I had an opportunity in the job that I had. We brought alongside our company a national consulting firm.
Mm-hmm.
No need to name them, but they were a very renowned firm at the time. And they introduced something to us as managers. And they were coming alongside of us. So basically, we all paired up with a member of their team.
Okay.
Co-manage some very large projects that we're part of. But they introduced something to us that was really interesting. Every week, as we would take it down to the team leader level. So now you had an individual who maybe managed 2 to 3 people.
Okay.
And all that was asked was that one team leader every week, on their own, just submit a memorandum-looking format that basically said, what did I accomplish this week? What am I planning to accomplish next week? And what new issues have I identified?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most powerful thing, and it became actually part of our corporate culture after we split that relationship, because it gave us exactly what you were talking about, a very weekly, down to the guy with his hands on the keyboard type evaluation, if you would.
Exactly right.
How are things going? And it was such a simple tool.
It is.
I mean, when it came time to do annual, evaluations, it was filling out a form, because you've been communicating every week with your team.
And nobody's
Actually, it
surprised.
built our teams quite a bit, too.
You
It became
bet.
a team-building
You bet.
opportunity.
But why doesn't that happen more often? Why aren't more managers conscientious and disciplined and on a timeline to ensure that happens?
They don't know to be.
Well, you can't say that.
I disagree that they don't know. I think they...
It's a time issue.
It
is a time.
Bogged down with
Are you familiar with the saying that sometimes when you're out there to drain the swamp, you forget to drain the swamp because you're up to your ass in alligators? What does that mean?
You're so busy fixing everything that's wrong, you don't have time to stop doing
We
it. But
get-
if you took the time to stop to do it, it would help fix the stuff.
We get so consumed in the day-to-day activities and putting out fires too often because we're poor planners that we never live into the future. Let me address that in just a minute. I think, I don't recall, did we talk about Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits in here? I talk about it in a lot of my classes. Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. 7 Habits, Covey. If you don't have that book, go get it. Highly Successful People, Stephen Covey. Go get it, put it on your bookshelf, and pick it up at least once a week, open it up at random, and read 3 pages. It's another thing that'll change your life. That's the single best book I've ever seen around how to run your life and how to run your career. We'll go through the 7 habits, maybe not tonight, but one of his habits is do first things first. And what he's talking about there is how you use your time. And he divides it up, I think kind of interestingly, things that are urgent and things that are important. I hope I draw this the right way, but at least the point will come through. There are things that are very low and high. Let's call this high urgency, low urgency. So something that's low urgent, it needs to be done, but not right away. Highly urgent, I'll give you an example of that in a minute. And then we have highly important or low importance. You see what we got then? We've got a matrix with 4 quadrants. Kind of like that SWOT thing. Quadrants are nice to work with. Keeps you organized, right? So up in quadrant 1, we're dealing with things that are highly urgent and highly important. What might that be? What kind of an activity or concern or issue might that be? I'll give you my own personal one, okay? Many years ago when my daughter was about 4 years old, I was back in the back of the house with her brother working in his room on some stuff, and she came into the bedroom. Come on in. And I wasn't paying attention to her, and she walked up and tugged me by the pants leg and said, "Daddy?" I said, "Just a minute." And I'm still working. She went, "Daddy?" "I'll be there in a minute, Dee Dee. Just a minute. I'm almost done." "Daddy!" And she's screaming at me. I said, "What?" She said, "The kitchen's on fire." It was. My wife had left a pot of grease on the burner and turned it on and walked off and forgot it. I came back in the kitchen and flames this high. You know, another 5 minutes we could have burned the damn house down. That is highly urgent and highly important.
Pay attention.
Yeah, this is the quadrant we call the crisis. Okay? Now that's an extreme, but how many people do you know that spend a lot of their time in this quadrant? Some of them are drama queens or drama kings. You know, everything's a catastrophe. Everything's terrible. Many of them are hypochondriacs. What's a hypochondriac? They imagine that everything is wrong with them is terminal. Okay? So, what kind of manager would this be?
Burnt out.
He doesn't have time to micromanage. He can't even do that very well.
Yeah.
I had a lieutenant I worked with in the Army that on the front of his Jeep, he put the term flap control. A flap was an emergency. And he said he spent all his time going around putting out fires and handling the flaps. And I thought, yep, there are those kind of managers out there that to them everything is a crisis, and basically unless it's a crisis, it's really not a lot of fun to deal with. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
In-home health care, the assistant coordinators or the coordinators that take the phone calls from the health aides, the aides that go out,
Okay.
or the clients themselves,
Yeah.
they're always in that crisis mode right there. They don't have a choice. That is their job.
Absolutely.
And it's from 8 to 5 and more.
Oh, yeah.
Crises.
Well, the ones I think
Because
of.
the drama going on at the
Oh, yeah.
homes.
Real or perceived, but perception is reality. Though I think of the emergency dispatch people down at GPD.
Exactly.
I went down there and spent some time with them. Yeah. That's the phone rings. There you go. But you can go into this mode,
To interview for them.
but you don't have to go crazy. It's how well can you handle it and stay in control. Anyway, let's go around the thing here a minute. We got things that are not very important, but they're very urgent. What might that be? really kind of,
Scenario agrees.
you gotta gotta do it right now, but it's not real important.
Make sure you have them.
Huh?
Preheat the oven, I guess.
How about paying the
Yeah,
bills?
I was gonna say in your scenario, it was just boiling, not on fire.
There you go, there you go. The grease is just bubbling.
Yeah, it's just on the
I don't know,
bubble.
maybe paying bills sits down here, because the bill is maybe low important. You're gonna get around to paying it, but, oh, it's due today. Okay, run down there and pay it. No big deal. What's happening over in this quadrant?
High importance, low urgency?
No, low urgency, low importance.
Okay. Oh,
Fortune teeth.
yeah, that's,
Not very
You're sitting on the couch drinking a beer, playing the Game Boy.
well, that's visiting the parents in 3 weeks.
Okay, that's cool. Visiting the parents in 3 weeks. What's going on in this quadrant?
Did you write lunch?
Emails.
Oh,
couch.
I was gonna say lunch.
She both smoothed that up into.
I thought it was lunch. I was like,
Lunch goes up.
She thought it said lunch.
What are you doing in this quadrant?
Checking emails.
Studying for an upcoming midterm.
It's not urgent right now, but it's damned important.
Preparation.
Preparation, planning, okay? This is the quadrant where you make your money, and I don't mean just financial money, but that's where you make progress in your life. And Covey wrote a whole book after the 7 Habits. His second book, I think it was called First Things First. And he takes this whole paradigm at length, and it's a good book. And if you're concerned about time management, I'd start out with this one, and then I'd read the First Things First book. Because just by reading the book, it makes you think about the things you're doing in your life or you're not doing. And maybe gives you a little more, at least returning to it regularly, a little more focus on, these are the things I got to do. So I think that's really worthwhile. If you're not up here in the planning mode, then you're somewhere else getting further behind. Yes, sir.
I also, you telling me about the fire in your kitchen reminded me of a story that has that kind of importance. I was working with my dad and we were having to put up walls and I was holding it up and I couldn't go do anything, but my cousin comes into the room saying, James, I need you to go do something. And I'm like, what do you need me to go do? And I'm just holding the wall. She's like, it's very important. I'm like, what's important? She doesn't tell me. Apparently my car was rolling down the hill because it came out of gear.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. But what does this mean to you and I as a manager? First, for us personally, we know we need to spend our time here. And we need to reevaluate, maybe on a daily basis. How have I spent my time? Which quadrant? So to me, this little drawing on a 3x5 card in your pocket, you pull it out every once in a while, and you tape it up there on the wall where you're always looking at it, and you say, how am I doing here? Because the less time you spend here, the further behind you get. Right? So it's a good reminder. But then when we look at our employees or our subordinates, we have a tool by which we can communicate with them too. We can lay this paradigm out for them, explain it to them, and say, what I see you doing is I see you spending an awful lot of time over here. And so my goal for you is that you spend more time over here and we have less crises in your position, okay? And now at least you have a vocabulary and a way to explain what you're seeing and what you're expecting. So I think it's useful that way. All right so far? 360 evaluations, first things first, time management. Did we not talk about resumes as a means of evaluation?
Yeah, you were saying that we need to update them every.
If you worked for me and I was doing a conscientious job, about every 6 to 8 months I would say bring me in your latest resume along with the last one. Now what should be the difference in the two? You're doing more stuff, you're taking on more responsibility, you're acquiring more skills, etc. And hopefully, I would be talking to you on a more personal basis, you're nurturing that network of people that you know. You're broadening your contacts. And if you're doing that for yourself, how does my resume look every 6 months? This is time you got to take out of your regular day. How long does it take you to update a resume? How long does it take you to keep these notes to yourself on what you've been doing? It takes time. But that's time spent over here. Not wasted in these other three. Okay, what else? Anything on your mind?
Just something to go off of what he said when he was saying about how they were doing the plan every week. We went through like a coaching or some kind of seminar. It was like a few hours or a day or something like that. And they were like, okay, we're going to do prescriptions every week when we have our side-by-sides with our supervisor. And this is what we're going to do. You'll write down what you're doing good, what you think you need to improve on. And we'll do this every week. And it lasted maybe 2 months. Like,
Yeah.
That's fun.
it was just like they were doing it and then didn't see it again.
Well,
Like,
the first rule for all of this stuff is to anticipate that the people you want to do it and do it regular aren't going to.
Right.
They got too many things going on. But if you're doing it regular, you'll do better at keeping them staying on track with it as well. But if you're not doing it, forget it. It's just lip service.
We had to fight constantly in that scenario. We had to fight constantly to maintain that so that it was a one-page, one-sheet, high-level, what's important. Because it would become very mundane otherwise,
Yeah.
and people didn't want to do it. Or some people felt like, oh my gosh, I got to justify, what have I been doing? I don't feel like I did anything this week.
Yeah.
And then they start putting down the unimportant.
Mhm.
And we were constantly fighting that, and a lot of times reassuring people, it's okay if that category of what you accomplished only has 1 or 2 items, as long as they were the real, meaningful things you accomplished.
But this is, to me, the reason you or I as managers get paid more. Because we should be in early taking care of this, whether you get up and go to a Starbucks for a cup of coffee and get it done in the morning, but every day, what's on the list, organized, communicate. End of the day, okay, go out and get a beer, and then what did I do today? Oh, damn, give me another beer. Okay?
Finish it up first.
Prices.
Finish what first?
Yeah. I'm not
You two-fist them.
Yes, ma'am?
I'm taking the capstone for the HSA, and she's having us look at do our portfolios.
Okay, would you share with us what is in your portfolio?
It's including the resume. It's including it's a cover page of a picture of yourself, and goals and objectives. On the front, I put my references at the bottom, and then it includes your resume. It includes your skills, the skills page. It includes things about yourself personally, things you like to do, things you've done in the past, awards, accomplishments.
Good. And you call it a portfolio, so you're carrying it around in a little portfolio type.
Actually, it's on the internet.
It's on the internet, but you could print it up into hard copy,
Oh, yes.
and you could carry it with you to a
It's
job
about
interview.
5 or 6 pages, I
Yeah.
think.
And when you talk about an artist with a portfolio, they're carrying these great big things with all their drawings. Many times people will say, we're going to do a portfolio interview. Bring me a portfolio of your past. Bring me documentation and explanation of what you've done.
Oh, it also includes projects.
Sure, sure. Now, what have we done in this class that alludes or drifts in that direction?
We did our own SWOT analysis.
Your SWOT analysis, your academic plan, your bio sketch. I'm trying to drive you exactly in that direction. One of the things I anticipate doing with Dr. Cersei, who's headed to China tomorrow, by the way, for a week, happy spring break,
Yeah.
is that when you get ready to do the capstone course, we have 3 one-hour courses in this program, is that a part of that will be to construct that portfolio, and you should have a background that you can update from this course to start with.
we do those at my
Okay?
job.
Huh?
We have those at my job. We,
Yeah, portfolios?
Mhm.
Absolutely. You should have one anyway. Just copies of the awards you've gotten, or letters of recommendation or commendation, or whatever. Sure. Okay, anybody else? Along that line, when you come back, do I think I said at the time of the exam or at midnight that night, the video. I'm asking you to do a video for me. I believe I said 5 to 10 minutes, is that right?
That's a long.
Yeah, that's approximately 9 hours when you're in front of the camera.
No, I spend 5 to 10 minutes on stage a week, so it's nothing.
Well, you're a little more relaxed about it then.
Yeah, no.
But let me just offer you a few comments about that video. Record it several times and watch yourself. There is nothing more humbling than to watch yourself again. And you may become aware of certain body language that you use, or the fact that you slur your speech or talk too fast. And better yet, get somebody else to watch it.
Sorry, you used too much body language.
I'm sorry?
I said that or used too much body language. I had to do a video and I had to sit on my hands the third time to do it. I'm like, stop using the hands.
Yeah,
You don't
and
need-
you can tell I use my hands all the time. I can't talk without my hands. But you're looking to prepare a professional type video, that is professional attire, preferably in a professional setting. So if you've got an office venue that you can use or something like that, to where you look like a professional in a professional setting, and you're basically explaining, this is who I am, and this is why I'm in this program. These are my goals and aspirations, and this is how I think this program is going to help me. Here are some of the things I plan to do while I'm in the program, okay? And so you're presenting that material. When you're presenting it, at least two rules. One, talk to the camera. Don't talk up there. That's annoying when you watch somebody and they're looking up there. Two, it's impossible to talk too slowly. It really is. Talk as slowly as you can and enunciate. Okay? You practice just those two things and you'll get a long way down the road. So I'm looking for that video. What else? Don't be reading something. Make it as natural as you can. But go ahead and draft an outline so you can cover the points you want to cover.
Behind your cue cards.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I had some folks last term, they had cue cards on the wall, and you could see them talk to the camera and drift over there and run. That's fine, no problem. Okay? But what I'm looking for in that video is at least the beginning of something you can say, okay, I can clean that up, I can rehearse that a little more, I can deliver a slightly different message, and I'll submit this as part of my portfolio and part of my job application. That's where I'd like to see you going with it. Okay? How are you going to give it to me? You're either going to load it onto your own YouTube channel, which you can do. You can create your own YouTube channel with one damn video on it. It's not a big deal. And when you upload it to YouTube, you list it as unlisted. Not private, not public, unlisted. That way, when you send me the URL, you and I are the only ones that can see it. Okay? The other alternative is you bring it to me on a disk or on a thumb drive. I'll take it and load it into my computer and give you your thumb drive back, you cheapo. And you're good that way. Okay? Go ahead.
This video is just going to be basically our first writing assignment and our
This
academic
video-
advisory and our SWOT analysis.
This video is, hi, my name is Roger Strickland. I'm a student in the SOM program at Santa Fe College. I'm following the general management track because I didn't have a particular interest in human resource management or IT management or public safety management. My goals over the next 5 years, you see what I'm doing? And so I'm talking about who I am and what I'm doing in this program, what my goals are, and whatever else about myself. I will include a little background, borrowing some from my bio sketch or whatever. How did I come to get into this program? Well, it happened because my uncles, daughters, second niece and third cousin, whatever the hell it is, okay? But you practice talking as naturally as you can, and you learn how to talk to the camera, and if you get it done halfway right the first time, the second time will be easier. Because one of the things I'm pushing Dr. Searcy on is let's make more of this kind of video recording a part of more classes. I think that's something you need to be competent to do. Same thing with PowerPoint presentations and voiceovers. Same thing with standing in front of a class and doing a presentation. I think those are the things we need to be rehearsing in our classes. Yes, sir.
In the SOM student organization, we talked about how public speaking should be one of the requirements for this degree.
It could perhaps be a prerequisite, but we haven't room in the curriculum to add another course.
Or, yeah, pretty
I'll tell you where I am on that, and I may start doing part of it here. I think part of the curriculum, however we put it in, not necessarily a single course, is got to be presentation ability. And that includes videos, PowerPoints, you know. If I walk in here and I'm going to do a presentation and I have some handouts for you, do I put them all out there before I start? Do I wait until after I start? When do I give you the handouts?
Do you show up in ratty jeans and a t-shirt?
Yeah, well, hopefully by now most people have figured that out. Not everybody, but you know. Okay, what else? Anything else on your mind? I got just things circulating around. I will share another item with you. I just got a mailing list. Do you all know Paula Gainey over in C101? Paula is a student in the program, and she is the administrative assistant to Dr. Geeson, who runs business programs under which this falls. And Paula is the know-all, do-all. She's the one that can save your bacon. Paula sent me a mailing list of 110 students that are in the SOM program. So I'm trying to put together a little newsletter, if nothing else just from me, but kind of from the faculty side. Here's what we got going on. If I can get that put together over the spring break, you'll see it in your email before too long. One of the things that's going to be in there is that we have taken a look at academic progress of students, in particular in the HSA program, since it's been here for, 4 years now. And looking at our experience last term, our first term with the SOM program, we are concerned that a few students are not making sufficient progress in their academics. We have a few students with histories of dropping a lot of courses, failing a lot of courses, waiting until the term before they graduate to take the very first introductory course, those kinds of issues. So we have drafted a set of academic progress standards that will be coming out effective in the fall, that, maybe it would be helpful to alert you to that. I don't think anybody that shows up for class has probably got an issue, but there are some students that they've got to make sufficient progress. You can take one course a term, no problem. The bigger problem is people who take 4 courses and can't handle that load. And so we're trying to preclude that. Along that line, so much of this course to me is tools you put in the toolbox. Little ideas, little models, like that thing right there. Are you familiar with the 80-20 rule? Anybody ever heard of it? Sometimes we call it the heavy half. In marketing, we call it the heavy half. That meant, for example, 20% of the coffee drinkers, they drink 80% of the coffee. Okay? Well, if that's true, what does that tell you about your marketing for your company if you're selling coffee? The 80% of the people who drink 20% of the coffee probably aren't your best market to be concerned with. You better know that 20% heavy drinkers and talk to them and give them what they want. Okay. This 80-20 rule occurs continually everywhere we go. 80% of the work that gets done in a company gets done by 20% of the people. Would you think that's true? Mm-hmm. 80% of the cutting edge, high quality, welcome to the 20%, right? Okay. How about this one? 80% of the problems in a class come from 20% of the students. That's not true. That's really not true. Yeah. I've been doing this for 33 years, and I'm pretty sure the rule reads like this. 5% of the students create 95% of the difficulties that I, as a faculty member, have to deal with. Okay? You're going to find the same thing with your employees. I don't know exactly what the ratio will be, but you've got to identify those people that are going to take a lot more trouble and decide whether it's worth the effort to do that. So, a part of that academic progress thing is to identify the 5% of the people that are just here for the financial aid, just kind of coasting and doing it half-assed, and say, don't take any more of my time. Okay? I hope you see, I put a lot of time in this course. I put a lot of time in reading that stuff. I really don't want to be reading that stuff for somebody who's just doing it so they can get the financial aid and doesn't give a damn. So this is self-interest as well. So that's coming along. And again, the SOM capstone is 3 one-hour courses. And so Dr. Searcy's planning to run those, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to be in each one. That's what we got going on so far. All right? What else is on your mind? Anything? Yes, ma'am.
Along those lines, do you know if this sheet has been adjusted at all?
Is that the grid?
Yeah.
In what way might it have been adjusted?
Well, I don't know if they've changed the sequence of courses or if there's different ones.
There is going to be some change coming in that, and in fact, I think by next fall, this program will have a couple of prereqs. They won't affect you, you'll be grandfathered in. But just by way of alert, when you take Managerial Economics, there'll be a prereq of having taken microeconomics first.
Supplemental accounting definitely needs a prereq.
I think of the accounting, how many taking or have taken the accounting course? What do you think about the work level and the complexity of that course?
I don't think
it's that bad.
You don't think it's,
a
we're
lot.
probably not understanding half of it, go ahead.
Yes,
I took the
I've
accounting
heard bad
before.
things about it.
Banging
Say
that
again.
head up against a brick wall is an excellent.
It's a lot of material, and you're right, it is like 20 hours a week if you're, wanting to cover all that. But, and when we took our first midterm, a lot of stuff that you study wasn't even close to being on the exam.
Because there's not enough time in an
There's not
exam to
enough
cover
time,
it.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, he wants you to put T-charts, journal entries, exactly how you're supposed to do it as an accountant, and this is for non-accounting majors. And
Can I say something? about it?
Let me, in order, yes, sir.
I actually think that if you do take an accounting course before taking this accounting that we have right now, you'll prepare yourself so you can handle the workload that he gives
oh
you.
yeah, Hooper's a tough teacher.
Then
And
given
that's what I
that,
have. I took his financial accounting, and now I'm taking the current accounting course, and I'm doing just fine.
Okay.
So, and I have no problem. I'm not being overwhelmed or bogged down by his course.
okay, I take your comment to heart, that may be something we sit around as faculty and discuss and make at least one financial accounting course, one accounting one, a prereq before you come in. That's good feedback. Yes, sir.
It needs to be a current accounting class, because I took accounting 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Walking in that was like walking into a minefield.
Well,
I mean, because working a full-time job, taking full-time courses here, each teacher here demands around 10 hours study, plus that class is 20 hours. So there's almost not enough hours in a day.
I agree with you. I teach the managerial econ class, and the people that, it's a micro prereq in HSA, and people come in and say, I took micro 8 years ago. Good. How much do you remember? That much? And you're right. So we need to take into account how long ago did you take it. You need to retake it. When I got out of college and went in the Army, I did 5 years in the Army and went back to grad school, and they said, oh, you've been out of school for 5 years. You've got to go back and retake accounting, economics, and all this. 5 years. I think that was probably a valid thing for them to do. Question, comment?
Well, it wasn't a question. As far as the accounting goes, what I found to be helpful, and I did pretty well on the midterm, was that midterm
The practice?
test, the practice test, and the fact that he gave you the note card to bring. Like, to me, pretty much everything that was on that midterm on the website was everything that was on the test. I mean, you just had to. And you got to do it as many times as you want, I think. So.
I heard the same comment last term. A lot of people were complaining until it was pointed out to them, you had this midterm that you could have
It was
practiced
everything
with.
that was on
So,
there.
yes, comment, yes ma'am?
The computer, introduction to computers or the computer class.
CGS 1101 or whatever, yeah.
I took a computer class over 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and I had to take the computer class again 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So it was a requirement to get into.
For the HSA program? Okay, good
So,
feedback.
I mean, that would be I think,
Yes.
and with accounting, I've taken all those accounting courses,
Mhm.
and they all required a lot of time. It was like a full time
Oh.
on top of the microeconomics class I took, at the same time I was taking accounting.
Mhm.
I think prerequisites would help.
Thank you. We do too. It was our understanding in the beginning that the state would not let us put them in. We understand differently now, and there will be some in, just as there are in the HSA program.
It was
So,
helpful to.
I think so.
That should be how many years, like,
I-
because when
yeah.
I came back, a lot of the classes didn't even have the same numbers.
That's
And
right.
They were letting me, they were saying, well, yeah, that counts. And
You're the
now-
one that came in and asked where the typing class
Yeah,
was, right?
no, I'm not that bad. Though I probably should have taken a computer class again, but no,
understand.
a lot of, I mean, some of them like were humanities and stuff, but they literally, the numbers changed. They were like, yep, we'll just count that. Well,
Yeah.
some of it's been okay, but some of it has come back to bite
Well,
me.
particularly on the ones you need to go forward,
Yeah.
like micro and like accounting. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely right. Okay. I appreciate any other feedback you have about the program as we go along. Either, send me an email, comment in class, or if it's really critical, you can just write it up on a piece of paper and put it in the mail and don't put a return address on it.
Postcard.
Oh, yeah, postcard works.
I have a question for you now that we're talking about this. Your managerial economics class for this, I mean, I'm one of those, it's been 8, 9, 10 years since I took the microeconomics course. Do you have any, should I take that first before I retake that?
I
Yes.
really would encourage you to do that.
I didn't like when I took it first.
Yeah.
Neither did I. I didn't like microeconomics one damn bit the first time I
The
took it.
micro, not the macro.
I didn't like macro either.
I took.
I spent
macro
33 years
teaching.
But
teaching
before that course, take the micro?
Or-
Yeah, take micro before managerial,
Okay.
okay? Now, Dr. Searcy teaches 3 sections of managerial every term. And if that's as many students as we have, he'll be your teacher. If there's a need for another section, then maybe I'll pick that up. And that's for this summer. We just don't know what our enrollment's gonna be.
I'll be here.
Yeah, there's one.
We'll be sure that we know where you are.
Apparently enrollment's down right now.
Enrollment's down about 4% since
The
last year.
Senate's having a big problem with that.
Yeah, they're a little short on money. Yes, sir.
Is there a book you would recommend before taking the managerial micro?
Before taking micro or managerial?
Managerial.
Any microeconomics book is going to contain the heart and soul of what you need. It's also going to contain 90% of the stuff you don't need. So I would tell you that if you're going to get a book and study preparatory to taking managerial, come and see me and I'll point out in the textbook the particular topics you want to focus on. I'd be delighted to do that. Okay. Yes, sir.
So you have managerial economics going on right now.
I do.
The students that you've seen previously in previous classes, are they doing okay? Not doing? Are they?
I gave their midterm. First of all, I give a midterm and a final. That's it. That's your grade. I have 29 students registered in class. 16 showed up for the exam last night. Now, what that tells me,
And they weren't doing that.
and you know, you see a video from me once every 2 weeks. I've got 140 videos on YouTube. And a bunch of them are about micro and managerial economics. And so they've got all the material they need on YouTube.
So you
And I give them a ton of homework to practice with. And my sense personally is that the 13 students that didn't even show up for the exam haven't done a damn thing all term. And now they're panic-stricken and they just said, oh, I'm bailing. That's my suspicion. In the past, even when everybody showed up for the exams, I've seen about a 50% failure rate in that course.
You gotta get a study buddy.
Amen. And let me bounce on that for a second. Study groups, studies.
Yes.
I mean,
I wish I had had one.
you can live or die with that, and you can enjoy yourself a lot more that way, socially, as well as studying hard. But it's the interactivity, the intercommunication between us that really helps you reacquaint yourself with information again and again. And I think that's extremely valuable. It's just hard to find the time to
The
do it.
conversation about the course that really says it all. Because you could have a conversation and you're like, oh, I saw this bit and this, and I see it as this way, and then your friend could correct you. No. That's the wrong way to look at it.
Mhm.
You need to look at it from this direction. Like, oh, thank you, because I was seeing the entire thing from this point of view.
Yeah, I agree
And
with you
that
there.
could save your grade.
The other side is a study group, somebody's got to be in charge of that mob. Somebody's got to keep you structured and on track.
Well, if anybody wants a study buddy for accounting, I'm all in.
We
Okay,
actually-
yes, sir.
We have a study group in accounting right now. We meet every other week on Monday nights. Right now we're meeting in the library. We were meeting at Starbucks. And I've learned from that study group that as a byproduct, you vent
Yes.
about class. And then you get that out of your system.
That's therapeutic,
And then
yes.
you're able to focus even more on that class.
Yeah, I couldn't meet when y'all were meeting at the coffee house, but if you're at the library.
We're at the library. We started, I think we've been there once or twice now. So if you want to
So you'll be meeting there next week, or not next week, but the week after spring break?
Yeah, the week after spring break.
Monday night, what time?
5:30.
About 5:30 at the library, in one of the rooms?
Yeah, on the second floor.
Second floor?
Yeah, we get one of those study group rooms.
Okay, for the
I'll
accounting
have
class.
to-
That's cool. Maybe somebody who watches this video will be interested in showing up as well. That's great.
It's on the 18th, it's not on the 11th.
Max.
The 11th.
Oh, you're not meeting the 11th, you're meeting the 18th. You have class on the
We
11th.
have class on the 11th.
Damn, you're organized.
Yeah. Don't let it go, right?
Yes,
It's
sir.
written down.
The economics classes you teach,
Mhm.
you got all your lectures on your YouTube channel?
Pretty much.
Because I just clicked the link when you post it for here. I've never really looked at your, so I can definitely go back and look at that for reference.
Yeah,
for-
absolutely you could. My channel's called The Wyvern 66.
Yeah, they're very helpful.
Thank you.
How do you spell that?
THE
The
WYVERN
Jake Searcy.
66.
Sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah, because I'm definitely going to be looking at your managerial economics videos.
Good, good. All right. Anything else on your mind?
Just back to the video.
Yeah.
A professional setting, if somebody doesn't have it, the big study rooms in the library are it's set up like a boardroom. I have never seen a study room that's, comfortable chair, big chair, big board. That when I suggested they have smaller rooms, and I've been in there, and that's kind of tight to do a video. But the large room, you might as well be in an office set, because I was going to use my job, but that setting is better than
Better
my
than that,
office.
excellent. Wonderful
It's the
recommendation.
big rooms, though.
One of the big meeting rooms in the
Yeah.
library to shoot
It's
your video.
beautiful. They're beautiful.
Cool.
And well lit. And
Just, if it's helpful, I have 2 flip cameras. I have this stand. I don't need them except when I'm recording in the evening. If you would like to borrow that for a short time to shoot a video, I'll do everything I can to make it available to you. Okay? Yes, sir.
Could you talk to Professor Ray at the videography department and see if he wouldn't mind opening up that room for us? They have a professional photo shoot room there for people to use, and
I'd be delighted to ask you.
I'll talk to him next time I see him. I'm currently trying to talk to some of his students about getting photographers for the newspaper.
Okay.
So I'm over there every now and then.
Well, if you see him, yeah, see what he says and let me know. But get back in touch with me and tell me what his basic response was.
Okay.
Okay? Good. Anything else? Damn, y'all are boring.
I thought there was a pretty enough.
We're all jotting notes down.
What would you like to do in this class for the remainder of the term on the occasions we meet? Are you comfortable with just the chit-chat, back and forth, pick up an idea, run with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I can come up with all kind of ridiculous scenarios to...
Before the exam,
I'm sorry?
like having a review before the exam of some of the questions.
Well, tonight's our night to do that because the exam's when you come back. So I'm not really going to go through the questions, but I'll pick up on any question you want to talk about.
I should have brought the study bag.
Well, I've got the first half of it, if that would help.
I don't remember, so I had mine marked up,
Okay.
but thanks.
Just to reiterate, a few of you came in a few minutes late. My intention is to take selected questions off of this test bank that I'm going to use for the test and give you, I don't know, maybe 40 of them, but on about, 5 or 10 of them, I'm going to ask you to explain the question. Let's see if we can find a good example here.
So the Scantron, for some of the questions, if you're going to ask us to explain it more, we're going to...
Then your explanation will go on here. I'll run your Scantron and then I'll go back and read them on here,
Okay.
or on whatever
Because I
scratch
know the
paper.
other
you
ones
get.
are written.
Yeah, Caproni will be all in writing. Listen to this. If your Chinese coworker in Hong Kong tells you that you have gained weight, you should interpret this comment as an insult, flirtation, a misunderstanding, friendliness, or too personal.
Friendliness.
Why friendliness? And I would say, explain.
Culture.
Explanations. Let's get clear on that. An explanation.
It shows that
Explain it to me.
he notices you. He pays attention to you.
An explanation shows the depth and breadth of your knowledge. It is not graded by your brevity. Culture, no? Not right. This would indicate that he is being kind and saying that I look healthy and prosperous. And that is common in their culture. There's your explanation, okay?
Healthy and prosperous.
Yeah. Or you're a successful pimp. I don't know. Something like that, Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, but that's more of like an opinion.
No, ma'am.
It's in
No, ma'am. That's straight from the book. That in the Chinese culture, comments about gaining weight are intended to be friendly and complimentary.
Comments like that in America, get you slapped.
Depends HR.
Or in HR, yeah.
When conducting business in English in Asia, if the answer to a question you ask is yes, what does that mean?
No.
They
Understand it.
They understand.
It means I understood. I understand. Yeah. Are you going to come over to supper with us next week? Yes. What that means is, I don't know if I'm coming to supper or not, but I understood what you asked me.
Wow.
Yeah. Guess how many people have gotten in trouble with that kind of thing?
The extra one was the one that caught me.
So what is their acknowledgement then?
They probably reiterate.
A little more follow-up, a little more, our,
So you'd like
kind of an
to be there at
RSVP.
that time?
We're having our function on this night. Would you go ahead and acknowledge that you're going to be there?
You gotta give them the proper paperwork.
You've got to
in
lead them,
advance.
you've got to lead them a little further down there. We're going to seat you and your wife next to so-and-so and so-and-so. Would that be satisfactory? Oh, okay, now we're getting closer to, yeah, you'll be there. Okay? But you've got to check along with it. And if you've got an interpreter with you, then you make sure through the interpreter that this is understood. Or if you've got a liaison person accompanying you around. Yeah. Hopefully Dr. Searcy will have some interesting tales from China when he comes back.
I have a brother that's done this.
All right, anything else?
Our group got a little question. We weren't, wasn't unanimous in the deal on it. So can you help us with the difference between a myth and a story? We got hung up on the Southwest Airlines question.
Read the question for us all.
Southwest Airlines employees all know about when CEO Herb Kelleher visited one of the airline's hangars in the middle of the night in a dress with a purple boa. Just to liven things up. In fact, this is part of Southwest history. It is an example of. And we know it's myth or story. I think majority said story, but
Majority
it was
said
not
story.
unanimous.
Why would someone say it was a myth? What is a myth?
Don't necessarily know if it's true or not.
Myth is unsubstantiated, more speculative. Herb did that. It's a story.
I think that was part of it. We weren't quite.
Yeah.
Some of us read it as, well, we don't know if that's true.
Yeah. Let me make a comment now that you brought that up. If you run into a question like that, that's almost a question about definition of terms. What's a story versus what's a myth? If I were you on that exam and I hit that question and I said, damn, I don't know for sure here, but I'm going to tell you, here's my explanation. I think this is a story because it did in fact occur. A myth typically didn't occur or has been exaggerated out of proportion. Oh, okay, so if you put the wrong answer, but I saw that, I'd figure, good, you got it together. So don't be afraid to make some comments on that exam as you go along, okay? I'm going to grade them the same way. I'm going to run down the end of the scores and go like them, don't like them, don't like them. But, it'll make you feel better when you go out the door. Okay?
Thanks
Anything
for being
else?
really honest.
That's my motto. Peace. Bye.